Pakistan carries out another wave of deportations of thousands of Afghan migrants and refugees. It cites national security concerns. But is politics involved in the rising tension between the neighbours? And how is Kabul dealing with the influx of refugees? This is Inside Story. Hey there, I'm Scott McLean. With the passing of another government deadline for undocumented Afghans to leave, Pakistan has launched a new crackdown on thousands still living in the country. In response to criticism, authorities say they are enforcing immigration laws. Since the beginning of the deportation drive, hundreds of thousands of Afghans have gone back to a country they fled. The UN says returnees include undocumented migrants, refugees, and Afghan citizen cardholders. Many say there is little to return to and that they face poverty and unemployment, as well as a near total absence of basic services inside Afghanistan. Their situation is worsened by the decline in funding for global aid agencies. The campaign has coincided with rising political tensions between Islamabad and Kabul. We'll discuss the root causes of the mass deportation of Afghans from Pakistan with our guest shortly, but first, this report from Imogen Kimber.
This is the Torkham crossing. Pakistan says 10,000 people return to Afghanistan through this border every day. That's since the Interior Ministry announced any Afghans without visas after July the 10th would be deported. With few options, migrants and refugees have left this camp near Peshawar. Many Afghans have been living in Pakistan for decades and have lives and families here. The push to expel undocumented migrants is part of a 2023 campaign called the Illegal Foreigners Repatriation Plan. It targets Afghans without valid permits. But last year, the government stopped processing visa extensions, increasing the number of people without permission to be here. The UN says since October 2023, at least 2.5 million Afghans have been returned home or been deported.
My brother studied engineering at a university in Pakistan, and my sister just passed her final exams at school. Both their studies have been interrupted. Women's education is banned in Afghanistan, and my brother's future is destroyed.
Some are leaving behind their livelihoods.
They forced us out. We had to sell our livestock, sheep, goats, and cattle, at very low prices. The cost of renting a vehicle has increased. We have suffered heavy losses.
Others say they have nothing to return to in Afghanistan, where poverty rates are high and the influx of returnees has put pressure on the economy.
With these returnees, you have literally hundreds of thousands of young people who are essentially without jobs. These people should be helped to reintegrate back into their communities. The alternative is radicalization. The alternative is social problems, security problems. And contemporary history tells us problems in Afghanistan do not stay here. Goes to the neighborhood and far beyond as well.
Islamabad cites national security concerns and economic strain as reasons for the deportation. The government accuses Kabul of failing to prevent armed groups from launching attacks from its territory. Imogen Kimber, Al Jazeera for Inside Story.
All right, before we get to our guest, let's talk to Arafat Jamal. He is the representative of the UN High Commissioner for Refugees in Afghanistan and joins us from Kabul. Arafat, thank you so much for being here. Can you just describe for our viewers what kind of conditions these Afghans being deported from Pakistan are walking into? I mean, what is the humanitarian situation like there?
It's dire, and it's getting worse by the day. Over 7 million have returned since 2023, 1 million this year alone. And this is from both Pakistan and Iran. And they're coming into a country that is 5 years under the Taliban. It does enjoy security, but very little else. The economy has actually started to decline, largely or in part as a result of the returnees. Last year, we saw a dip in GDP per capita growth by 4%. So they're coming into a landlocked country Two of the main borders are under stress. The one with Pakistan is basically sealed. The one with Iran is unstable. It is very difficult for Afghanistan to cope with these returns.
What about for women and girls? I mean, what kind of life can they expect is waiting for them there?
A woman in Afghanistan enjoys some of the worst conditions globally for women. They are not allowed girls are not allowed to go to school beyond the age of 12. Morality restrictions are quite severe, and gender segregation is applied in many contexts. So it's a dire situation for girls and for women.
What about political persecution? I mean, how big of a risk or how real of a risk is that? Have we already seen instances of, say, dissidents or journalists being arrested or detained as they walk back into Afghanistan?
UNHCR has put out an advisory. We urge governments not to deport certain categories of people, and these do include journalists, social media influencers, women, athletes, etc. And we are telling both the neighbors, but also countries farther afield, including in Europe, not to deport these people. We need to ensure that they're able to be protected and to return home in dignity. And the visit of our High Commissioner, who you saw in the clip earlier, Barham Saleh, together with the head of the United Nations Development Program, Alex de Croo, both emphasize this, that countries must protect and enable Afghans to return home only when they are safe and when they are able to return in dignity. In return, as the United Nations, we are here to help to stabilize the conditions of return and to reintegrate people.
I just wonder, the numbers are pretty staggering here. Since 2023, there's been some 2.4 million Afghans deported from Pakistan. And I just wonder, how many of those people would have heard their asylum case in Pakistan?
I think the first thing we must do is acknowledge the extreme hospitality that both Pakistan and Iran have exercised for more than 4 decades. They've opened their borders, they've opened their schools, their hospitals, and their lands to Afghans. What we're witnessing now is a collapse in an international system that did protect them. And I think implicit in this protection was international support to those countries. So what we're seeing is a gradual erosion of all sorts of categories of Afghans who are losing these protections and who are now, in many cases, quite arbitrarily being sent home.
All right, Arafat Jamal, UNHCR representative in Afghanistan. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for the work that you're doing there.
Thank you for having me.
All right, to dissect this story further, let's bring in our guests. From Kabul, we're joined by Obaidullah Baheer, an adjunct lecturer at the American University of Afghanistan. He's also the founder of the Afghan Institute for Peace. Kamran Bokhari is in Purcellville in the U.S. state of Virginia. He's a senior fellow with the Middle East Policy Council and lectures in the Security Studies program at Georgetown University. And in Islamabad, we have retired Major General Zahid Mahmood, a Pakistani defense analyst and a former senior officer of the Pakistan Army. Thank you all so much for being here. General Mahmood, we'll start with you. Look, Pakistan obviously has genuine security concerns, especially about the Pakistani Taliban or the TTP. But where I'm confused is the Pakistan Taliban is made up of Pakistanis. And so I just wonder why Pakistan is blaming, at least in part, its security issues on Afghans who are inside the country.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. We need to understand that though this term is Pakistani Talibans, yes, of course, they have been living in Pakistan, but over a period of time, they have transited to Afghanistan due to heavy operations inside Pakistan. Because this is a terrorist organization, a proscribed organization, and many international countries have already banned them. So they transited to Afghanistan. They are living there. They are being supported and unfortunately abated by President TTA setup in Kabul. So over a period of time, Pakistan has been emphasizing on Tehreek-e-Taliban Afghanistan, whether to take action against these TTPs, because they are carrying out a lot of terrorist activities inside Pakistan. And there are credible intelligence information that they're being used by some other countries also as their proxies. So Pakistan is facing a serious war. So Pakistan has no problem with Afghan brothers and sisters. They themselves are, you have seen from the reports, they themselves are under a lot of stress, but these pressures are being built on the Tehrik-e-Taliban Afghanistan to take action against, not to allow their soil to be used by these terrorist groups against Pakistan. Don't support them, don't abate them. If you can't take actions against them, then support Pakistan in taking action against them. And Pakistan has been trying to do it diplomatically and politically, but unfortunately, over last 2-3 years, their activities has increased to an extent which is kind of a red line for Pakistan. Therefore, in the recent past, you have seen that Pakistan was compelled, unfortunately, to take certain actions inside Afghanistan against these Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan terrorists. So this is a serious concern. That's why Pakistan is, asking Afghanistan to take actions against them.
Okay. Kamran, do you agree with what the general just said there, or do you think that the Pakistani government is going after the wrong people by trying to deport all these Afghans?
Thanks for having me, Scott. Look, it's a complicated situation. If you look at Pakistan's western flank, I'm talking about the areas running north-south west of the Indus River. And I'm not just talking about KPK, I'm also talking about Balochistan. You have a twin insurgency situation there. You have Baloch separatists that also have sanctuaries in Afghanistan. You have the Taliban insurgency that is clearly backed by the regime in Kabul. So in a situation like that, you have to figure out what is the infrastructure of TTP, and it's what is a network. And so I think what the Pakistanis are trying to do here is do two things. One is to reduce the amount of space that these organizations have, these elements have inside Pakistani territory. And I think that's why they're targeting the refugees. But there's another broader objective that I think is happening, is to put pressure on the Taliban regime in Kabul that, look, you need to rein in these insurgents. And they can, but they're not. And I think the authorities in Islamabad are saying, look, if we add more socioeconomic pressure on them by pushing refugees to the other side of the border, then maybe that'll get their attention. Is it a good policy? Well, we'll see. I mean, it's from a humanitarian point of view, obviously it's not. Strategically, will it deliver? That remains to be seen.
Obaidullah, do you think that strategy is going to work, pushing all of these Afghans across the border into Afghanistan to put pressure on the government there to do something more, not to facilitate the actions of the Pakistan Taliban?
Scott, thank you for hosting this debate. I mean, the TTP can either be based in Afghanistan or is based within the refugees within Pakistan. It cannot be both situations. And it's quite unfortunate that two very educated guests belonging from Pakistan are implicitly supporting the use of refugees as a political tool. Look, every country has the right to do with their own refugees. Every country has the right to do with their refugees whatever way they want to deal with. If they do not want to accommodate them, that is their prerogative. But the problem here is both the motive and the manner, right? The fact that within the motive, not only is there a collective blame on the general refugee population, but there is a collective punishment being handed out to them. And in a sense, you already expelled 4 million. If that didn't help with the security situation, clearly the million over that or the 2 million after that aren't going to help either. And then on the second end, with regards to the manner, the fact that these refugees are being expelled, the Afghan government has said they will welcome the refugees with open arms. Yes, it would be difficult. Yes, the economy is tight, but it's their home. They're more than welcome to return. However, that being said, the undignified manner in which the refugees have been pushed out, from posters being put up, prize money over the heads of Afghans that are reported to the police, to the closing of crossings and making Afghan refugees wait in limbo near the crossings, all of these, and then jailing Afghans, having women locked up, all of those are ways in which we really make sure that our people-to-people contact that was built over decades and all the pleasant memories that Afghan refugees had of Pakistan are all spoiled based on politics and based on using refugees as a political tool.
I want to ask you about the manner that this is being done, General Mahmoud, because 3 weeks ago on World Refugee Day, Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, he said this, quote, several generations of Afghan families lived in Pakistan with dignity, benefiting from opportunities for employment, education, and essential services despite the constraints on our national resources. Pakistan effectively managed the movement and welfare of millions of Afghan nationals. Since September 2023, a phased, orderly and dignified repatriation process has been underway. General Mahmoud, given what you just heard Obaidullah describing, can you really say that this whole process has been dignified?
Yeah, I think with all my respect to my brother Obaidullah, I think this is a highly wrong picture which he's painting. Look, Pakistan has been hosting them more than 4 decades. They have been studying here. They have been groomed here. Initially, UNHCR was taking a lot of burden of these refugees, those who were living in the camps. But later on, with the reduction in that aid, and secondly, not many illegal Afghanis, they came to Pakistan. So they spread all over in Pakistan. I live in Pakistan. So in every city, every town, every village, these Afghanis are living. And they're living with a lot of, comfort. They're thriving in their businesses. They're living very happily. They used to live, even in Islamabad, not many Afghan refugees were living. They were studied here. In Quetta, their leadership, even Karzai was also in Pakistan. So they live with a lot of dignity and honor. In last few years, there have been incidents inside Pakistan, like a bombing of Imam Baga in Islamabad in a few months back, our court bombing in Islamabad. Then in every, in Balochistan also, in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa also, a lot of Afghani refugees were found involved in supporting and abating this terrorism. Unfortunately, this is one part. Secondly, it is not only this terrorism, or this is not only the TTP or TTA, they are responsible. Since Pakistan is not that rich country, Pakistan has also economic conditions. These Afghan Majris, they are mostly related to those families who have been fighting Russians as Mujahideens. Then they were infighting in Afghanistan. It's a long period. It's not a story of few years back. It's a long story. Then they have been fighting Americans. So at that time, they were not having good conditions in Afghanistan. So these families were vulnerable. But today, their own brothers are in power in Kabul. For how long you can keep them? For how long you will keep alligating Pakistan? And on the other side, one more important thing, it's not only in Pakistan. Turkey, Iran, UK were to settle few Afghanis. Are they settling them all? Americans were to take few Afghanis who supported them in operations. Are they settling them all? How about the Germans? So unfortunately, this approach of TTA, the guys who are sitting in Kabul, who are not governing Kabul for the people of Afghanistan, their approach and this Afghanistan, unfortunately, becoming a hub of terrorism. There are international reports on that Afghanistan is keeping a lot of organizations. So this is a cumulative effect. For how long you will keep them here? You have to govern Afghanistan.
It's been, as you point out rightly, so it's been, for some of these people, we're coming up on half a century here. And there are so many, obviously migration is complex and it is controversial in some cases, and it comes with pros and cons. However, there are so many success stories of migration around the world, people being integrated, people being successful, contributing to the economy. And Pakistan has spent so much money providing healthcare, providing education to all of these Afghans. So Kamran, I just wonder, why wouldn't Pakistan want to get a return on their investment in these people and keep some of them around?
I'd like to take a minute to, respond to Obaidullah. So first of all, I'm not justifying anything. I'm a strategic analyst. I am explaining why I think the Pakistanis are doing what they're doing. I have no pony in this race, so please keep me out of that. To answer your question, Scott, look, could they have done it better? Absolutely. I said earlier that from a humanitarian point of view, it's the wrong thing to do. But the issue over here is that Pakistan's economy is not doing well. So that adds pressure on the Pakistani regime to do something. And they have a harsh economic situation and a very harsh security situation. So I think that, and there are no good options over here. Again, I'm explaining, not justifying. And so I think there could be a way to do this, but Pakistan is also faced with a lot of other challenges as well. And so when you have like less options and your bandwidth is stretched to the maximum, I mean, these are the kind of policies that you'll see. Are they good? No, absolutely not. But are they happening? And obviously, and unfortunately so.
Obaidullah, the UN Development Program says that 92% of those being returned to Afghanistan cannot support the necessities of life or cannot find the necessities of life. I just wonder how much worse is having millions of people all of a sudden back in Afghanistan making life for the rest of the population in Afghanistan? How much further is it stretching the resources there?
Again, as you've already highlighted, it's an economy that's already struggling to find its feet. It was a system under 20 years of occupation that was alive and kept alive by international aid that was stopped abruptly with the Taliban takeover. I'm a little confused as to whether I should believe your two guests' first reason for the expulsion, which was security, or the second reason now, which is the economy, because I think I heard the spokesperson of the Pakistani army very clearly stating that the reason they're expelling the refugees is a security reason. And then on the security reason, what's missing is the link of showing proof that the refugees are responsible for this, because clearly the Pakistani army's talking point has been that these people are coming from Afghanistan, they're being accommodated here. So let's take, for example, their argument, the general's argument, which is contrary to his military spokesperson, that these people within the country are the reason that the security is bad. The question then should be asked, after 40 years of hosting these people, the fact that they're willing to join ranks of TTP, which are local fighters from within Pakistan, and hit Pakistani military targets, does that not show a failure of being able to integrate these people? And then, yeah, sure, Afghans are going to come back home. They're going to have a difficult time, but at least we'll be together. We'll find a way out of it. But the security situation hasn't improved. If it didn't improve after 4 million expelled, how will it improve with basically humiliating the rest of the Afghans? So again, coming back to my first answer, the motive and the manner are both problematic when you have a campaign of humiliation targeted against Afghans and then complementing that with bombing civilians within Afghanistan. All you're doing is creating forever enemies, and that is not a tactic that helps the region or helps Pakistan.
General Mahmood, your response?
Yeah, look, it is accumulative. Yes, the security, our military spokesperson was carrying that press conference, which was associated with certain incidents of terrorism in Pakistan. As I quoted, the links were established in which few refugees were involved. I'm not saying that all refugees have gone and joined the TTP, but unfortunately, these are those incidents. Pakistan can't bleed every day. A few days back, Pakistani police was attacked in Balochistan, where 45 people were martyred. Pakistan has serious conditions, and Pakistan exactly knows, they have the credible information that unfortunately all terrorist activities which are happening in Pakistan, there is a linkage which is there in unfortunately with Afghanistan. So there have been few refugees also who have been involved in this. This is not a very good condition. I can understand that the people are under stress. There are certain people who want to live their normal life, but this is mostly because of the behavior of Taliban. If you remember 2021, where they promised to have, those promises of having an all-inclusive government at the Bagram airport, that guy, that young Afghani who tried to stored out with the American military plane, that Zaki, who was a footballer, he tried to stow out with he was killed there because his brother gave this interview that he was worried about this regime in Afghanistan, which will not give him a good future. He can't play football. Where are the women of Afghanistan? Look, this is a political debate. We will get into this.
Yeah,
unfortunately, yes. So limiting to our topic, it is a cumulative effect. Unfortunately, Pakistan has the economic stress, and Pakistan is a victim of terrorism, which is emanating from Afghanistan. Unfortunately, they're not governing Kabul for the people of Afghanistan. This is your problem. You can do with them. But at least Afghanistan will have to create an environment where you should not be very proud of having any refugee outside the world.
General, I want to ask you one more question ask one more question to Kamran, if I can, on a slightly different topic, and that is that there's a case in the United Kingdom right now of a convicted pedophile, originally from Pakistan, who has been released from prison after serving part of his sentence. The UK government wants to deport him back to Pakistan. Now, in this case, with this mass deportation drive of Afghans, the Pakistanis say that they're doing everything according to international norms and by their own domestic laws. But if they're going to kind of claim the legal high ground here when it comes to their own deportations, shouldn't they at least take their own citizen back from the United Kingdom?
I mean, they should. I'm not very familiar with this case. I don't follow it. But principally, yeah, they should. And yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with Obaidullah on what he's saying in terms of parsing out the different factors. And the strategy, his critique of the strategy has merit. But like I said, look, states do what they just have to. And sometimes, and many times actually, policies are not good enough and they lead to more problems. And I do believe that, we're not going to see the end of this. It's been going on for nearly half a century. And I wouldn't be surprised if we were talking about this, in another few decades, because something that's lasted this long, a situation like this, where you have a large number of refugees, inside a country, and the conflict in their country of origin hasn't been settled, then yeah, obviously, this is going to continue, and I think this is going to be a subject of debate for a long time to come.
Obaidullah, quickly, I'll give you the last word. Go ahead.
Just FYI, I think it's important to point out that the TTP has been operating in Pakistan for over 2 decades, that the BLA has been operating within Pakistan for 7 decades. So just to blame the Afghan refugees for their actions, I think is problematic. Also, if I believe the general's words that Afghanistan is such a horrible place for people, I don't understand the moral high ground through which they are being forced back into that country. I don't agree with that assessment. I think that Afghanistan is a livable situation. If we have problems, we will solve them internally. That is something we take on ourselves instead of scapegoating and projecting on another country or another collective population of refugees. And I think Pakistan really needs to look into its own collar and fix its own internal security failures instead of blaming innocent refugees.
Gentlemen, I really appreciate the debate today. Thank you all for being here. Obaidullah Baheer, Kamran Bokhari, and Major General Zahid Mahmood, as well as Arafat Jamal earlier on. And thank you as well for watching. You can see the program again anytime by visiting our website. It's aljazeera.com. And for further discussion, go to our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/AJ Inside Story. You can also join the conversation on X. Our handle is @AJ Inside Story. For now, that's it for me, Scott McLean, and the team here in Doha. Al Jazeera's coverage continues in just a moment. Stay tuned.